Who are Anonymous Lobster? We are an international collective founded by us four designers, Aline, Martina, Chris and myself, Ariane, to create work that helps to bridge the gap between knowledge and action in young people, whether it's through the curriculum or home and school environments like social media or otherwise. We want to empower them to become change makers. So we all came together from different backgrounds across design, interaction, architecture and learning to tackle this topic. In an ongoing project, we are exploring ways to enable teens to collectively act on real-world issues by fostering a sense of agency over their futures, alongside having the knowledge, the skills and the ability to actually put that into action. It's no secret that social environmental activism, particularly in young people, has generated a lot of attention over the past couple of years, and it's a growing sense of urgency and interest to be involved. And in our research, we found that a number of different causes, initiatives and organisations working in this area. But despite all these, there appears to be many barriers to becoming an active participant, such as the influence of peer pressure and social media, and the initiatives aren't reaching the right audiences, which is where we want to come in and help try and find solutions. Our collective goal is for young people to be supported in becoming an empowered tribe of change makers towards sustainable futures. So we started working on this by working mostly in short sprints off of the double diamond structure and making sure we're constantly checking in with the end users, getting feedback and iterating ideas alongside the people that we want to help. Kicking off in the discovery phase, we did lots of research and interviews and questionnaires. And here is one particular study that we found that almost half of 10 to 20-year-olds can be classified as potential participants and 3 in 10 are committed participants based off of their current and future involvement levels. So that is prompting one of our earlier questions of what are barriers in participation? And some answers that came from this were, no one asked me to be involved, it didn't occur to me, or I didn't know how to get involved. So we wanted to really kind of go into the reasoning why people are answering this and share the questions with a wider audience. To do this, we set up an Instagram account, which was linked to a questionnaire. We had a number of different responses to questions such as, which of these forms of action have you heard of, not heard of, actually done, and what raised your awareness about the topics that you are most engaged with? Surprisingly, the biggest answer being social media. From all of this research, we were able to identify some key points at the beginning of our journey. 3 main points being group belonging is essential in young people's development. There are many initiatives for teens, but the content can be hard to find, or it's not accessible enough, or the sheer amount of options can be overwhelming. And lastly, school is still a central point of growth and learning, but the structure of our current system doesn't address these topics and teens' concerns well enough, or foster the necessary skills or engagement to get involved. So we then moved into defining the kind of themes, initiatives, how might we questions, and opportunities where we could come in and start to innovate some solutions. So here is a selection of how might we questions that came from our goals, such as how might we facilitate collective action, approach them on eye level, and help teams find their strengths. All of this research and defining was plotted onto a map of potential areas for us to get involved, which ended up growing quite big. And we had a culmination of research and questions and themes to start some design sprints. Following the double diamond, we began to iterate, develop, prototype and user test alongside some teens. So today we're going to quickly show the process with 2 of our projects, which are called Cohack and Action Engine.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our first prototype, which is Cohack, which was the result of our initial week of design sprint. So Cohack builds mainly on a key point of our research, which is the importance of group belonging and expression to encourage and sustain learning and actions in young people. We focused mainly on 3 how might we questions, which are how might we amplify teens' voices and agency in their relationship with educational institutions, how might we facilitate group action and group belonging, and how might we use the right media to reach and involve young people. So from these questions, we started brainstorming and sketching, and this is when the idea of an augmented reality experience within the school emerged. And we see the school as still a central point of growth and learning for teens, as well as a core space for their social environment and development. However, from our research, we found that teens feel that their schools fall short in addressing social and environmental issues within them. The students we talked to would prefer to learn more about these topics and get involved with their peers. So that was the starting point, and there we landed on our prototype Cohack, an AR application which lets teens virtually post, browse, and share content around the walls of their school. It's only accessible to them, so it becomes a virtual space for expression, but also for socializing around important issues, which teens can find hard to communicate about on their other social media channels. And the aim is to reclaim the institutional space to give young people a sense of agency over their own learning and a way to voice their concerns and interest around real-world issues to challenge an outdated education system. The app is obviously using a device that most young people own and widening its possibilities, revealing a whole space just from a simple screen. The user journey is pretty simple. When you enter the app, you're prompted to choose among two exploration modes. The first one is free exploration, which lets you see all the content that's been posted across the school, and you can just walk around and discover and just stop wherever you find something that seems interesting to you. The second one is a little bit more focused, and it's the exploration by topic mode, where you're invited to choose a topic you're interested in, and then the app would lead you to areas of the school where things have been posted that just talk about this topic. Then the third action that is possible once you've been watching content and there's something that you like, you can do what we call leave your mark, which is either by posting videos, images, or GIFs that you found on the web or that you've created yourself. And you can also add comments and free drawing on the walls, as you can see on the little GIF on the side. So these are the main actions of the journey map. And then obviously you can just go back to exploration mode, change it, or leave the app. And during the 5th day of our design sprint, we ran some user tests, 5 of them, which was really interesting and helped us understand better what were the possibilities of this prototype, where it could go further, where were the weak points and the strong ones. So obviously there are issues around safety, monitoring of content, and fact-checking that would need to be solved. And there is also an ignored need so far from the teens to have firstly access to quality content so that they'd be able to share it. On the positive side, the feedback was very positive on the media and the use of AR. The connection to physical space and the feeling of empowerment through ownership of space seemed super exciting to most of them. It is also expected from most that the school context would encourage serious conversations and debates which wouldn't happen otherwise on other media streams such as Instagram or TikTok. Then, so further steps would be possibly to add a mode which would allow people to access the content without being in the school, having an out of sight mode. And then we talked about introducing Anonymous, or like whether people should be revealed or not, options to enhance the social and group forming aspect of the app, and finally possibilities to create exchanges with higher grades as mentors who would possibly provide higher quality content and help teens navigate the web. That is this for this prototype, and we'll have a little chat about it at the end after. To you, Martina.
So our second prototype is called Action Engine. With this particular prototype, we were looking to address teenagers that sit between already being engaged with issues that they're interested in, but finding it difficult or struggling to jump into action to contribute to that particular issue. And in particular, we're looking at the challenges that they face, such as identifying what their talents and strengths are and where to use them, and addressing the fact that there are already so many resources and initiatives and activities out there to get involved in, but it can be really overwhelming to look for them and know what you're looking for on the internet. So these are our how might we questions for this particular prototype. So how might we help teens to find and use their strengths and talents? how might we make complex and numerous information accessible and digestible for teens, and how might we point teens to the right tools and knowledge that already exists. So with this design, we aimed to transform the fragmented experience of finding relevant content to get involved in social action. We focused on linking teens to the right resources, and our final goal being to help them transition from being potential to actual committed participants in social change. So this is our user journey for our prototype. It was a search engine meets internet quiz. So the way it works is teens answer a bunch of filter questions through which they can assess their interests and assess their current situation and availability. And they would receive bundles of resources curated to them. So instead of having sort of a search bar where they can type something, the user would look for content manipulating these filters. And we did this in the form of sort of fun sliders. So we developed this range of sliders with unique interactions. And this is a little animation of them working. And we designed the interaction in a way that would encourage engagement with the filter that they're looking at. You can only see the options if you're actually using the slider. So the outcome of setting these parameters is a personalized curated list of references and content that the user can then engage with. The resources that are offered in the bundle are basically an outcome of the combination of the parameters that they've set in the filters. So to this end, to the end of making it truly personalized to the person and making sure that we cater to changing interests, changing availabilities, changing situations, the user has the opportunity to always go back and change the filter. So using the menu page, which is here on the bottom right, the user can kind of look at what they've already set, so how they've already set the parameters, and they can click on any parameter, change it, and that would generate a new outcome, so new resources. So our vision for these bundles of information is for them to become a sort of a manageable and digestible starting point to engage with resources, initiatives, and activities that are out there in the world that already exist. And with the option of sharing that bundle of results on social media, the idea is to have this gain traction among peer groups. So again, we followed the process of testing with 5 users, and some of the more significant positive feedback that we got was that the teens really enjoyed having choices in filtering their content. And in fact, the simplicity and manageability of the design would encourage regular use of this tool, so helping them create a habit of looking for resources. On the negative side, we still face challenges in making sure that the filters that we use to filter the content actually cater to their real needs, and that it's clear what those filters are, how they work, and how they relate to the content. And then other challenges that we face involve making sure that we create a quality database of resources, which you will hear more about in our next steps.
Yeah, so obviously this is all kind of very work in progress, kind of exploring different avenues. So the things that we kind of have like as our map of our next steps of things we want to address is obviously getting feedback from designers, educators, or teens, creating further prototypes and learn from them and iterate, and potentially find some funding to go deeper into some stuff and actually put some stuff out there. And particularly on the Cohack and Action Engine, just recapping from the presentations from Elena and Martina. So on the Cohack, we'd love to like co-design the next version of that, including teens in the actual creation, find fundings for a trial and school to collaborate with, so with them we can actually have it as like a temporary local project and how teens engage, and obviously then find people to collaborate with to build this and make it happen. And on the Action Engine side, co-design the right parameters that really reflect the interests and needs of the teens using it, and co-creating the database behind it with teens and with people from the field, and ideally finding institutions to collaborate with that might profit of having a tool like that to engage with the right teens and put their content out there. in a kind of bespoke manner. On the design of this, we could also really see how, if this was an application where you have a profile that you can go back to regularly, that could be quite interesting, where it could deliver regular updates on the content, and you could always go back and like change your preferences to dip into different topics or change your availability. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. And we've already talked for longer than we intended, but we definitely like appreciate any thoughts, feedbacks, interest in collaboration, or just, you know, exchanging contacts for like future chats about this. Anything really is, yeah, that's kind of everything we've got. And thank you so much for giving us your time.